The game is rigged and everyone knows it, but few are willing to admit it. You can work twice as hard as the person next to you and watch them get promoted instead. You can be loyal for years and get replaced in a single afternoon. You can tell the truth and be called a liar while the real liars get applauded. This is the world we live in, and pretending otherwise is the fastest way to lose. But there's a different kind of intelligence that the most successful people possess. It's not taught in schools, and it's rarely discussed in polite company. It's the intelligence that comes from seeing reality exactly as it is, not as we wish it would be. This intelligence doesn't make noise. It doesn't announce itself. It watches. It learns. It adapts. And when the moment is right, it acts with precision. Most people are playing a game they don't even know exists. They react when they should observe. They speak when they should listen. They reveal when they should conceal. They're emotional when they should be calculated. This isn't about becoming cold or ruthless. This is about developing the mental frameworks that separate those who control their destiny from those who are controlled by circumstance. Before we go further, let me be absolutely clear about something. What you're about to learn is designed for self-protection and strategic advancement, not for hurting people who don't deserve it. The purpose is understanding how power actually works, so you can defend yourself and achieve your legitimate goals without being naive about human nature. Now I want you to engage with this content. Drop a comment right now telling me this: I will be strategically intelligent, not emotionally reactive. Say it. Mean it. Now let's begin with the frameworks that change everything. First, strategic ambiguity. The most influential people never show their full hand. They reveal portions of their thinking, but never the complete picture. When people don't have all the information, they fill in the gaps with assumptions, and those assumptions can work in your favor if you understand how to guide them. Think about every powerful figure you've observed. They speak in ways that allow for multiple interpretations. They answer questions without fully answering them. They create interest through what they don't say as much as what they do say. This isn't dishonesty. This is communication mastery. Here's what most people do wrong. Someone asks them a direct question and they feel compelled to provide a comprehensive answer, complete with background context, personal motivations, and future intentions. They think transparency builds trust, but what it actually does is eliminate mystery and reduce leverage. When you make yourself completely predictable, you make yourself completely ordinary. Consider how differently people respond when you maintain strategic ambiguity. Instead of explaining every detail of your plans, you share only what's relevant to the current moment. Instead of justifying your decisions, you simply state them with quiet confidence. Instead of seeking approval through over-explanation, you let your actions speak louder than your words. This creates a psychological dynamic where people pay more attention to what you say because they know you're selective about what you share. Your words carry weight because they're not diluted by constant chatter. The key is being deliberate about information flow. Not every question deserves a complete answer. Not every situation requires you to reveal your thinking. Not every person needs to know your methods, only your results. When you practice strategic ambiguity correctly, people start perceiving you as more competent, more interesting, and more powerful, simply because you're not giving away everything for free. Remember, the goal isn't mystery for its own sake. The goal is maintaining control over how people perceive you and what they know about your capabilities and intentions. Second, adaptive identity. You're not the same version of yourself in every situation, and that's not weakness, that's intelligence. The most socially sophisticated people understand that different environments and different people require different approaches. They don't have one fixed personality they present to the world. They have a core identity that expresses itself in contextually appropriate ways. You already do this instinctively. You don't speak to your boss the same way you speak to your closest friends. You don't act at a funeral the same way you act at a celebration. You naturally adjust based on social context. Adaptive identity takes this natural tendency and makes it intentional and strategic. Every person you interact with has different values, different communication preferences, and different ways of processing information. If you communicate the same way with everyone, you'll connect deeply with some people and completely fail to reach others. Strategic people analyze who they're dealing with and adjust their presentation accordingly. Is this person analytical and data-driven? Give them facts and logical structure. Is this person emotionally intuitive? Connect through stories and feelings. Is this person hierarchical and status conscious? Show appropriate respect for structure. Is this person rebellious and anti-authority? Appeal to independence and innovation. This isn't manipulation. This is meeting people where they are instead of forcing them to meet you where you are. Think about water adapting to any container it's placed in while never losing its fundamental properties. That's how adaptive identity works. You adjust your expression to fit the situation, but your core values and principles remain constant. The mistake people make is thinking authenticity means being identical in every situation. But real authenticity is being true to your core self while having the flexibility to express that self in ways that others can receive and understand. When you master adaptive identity, you become someone who can build rapport with almost anyone. People feel comfortable with you because you're speaking their psychological language. This skill becomes incredibly valuable in leadership, negotiation, relationship building, and any situation where influence matters. But here's the critical boundary. Never adapt so much that you violate your core principles. Never become so flexible that you lose your integrity. The strongest people are like diamonds with many facets, but one unbreakable core. Third, emotional independence. This might be the most important principle of all. You cannot be controlled by anything you're not afraid to lose. The moment you become desperate for something, a job, a relationship, approval, status, you give other people power over you. Freedom comes from knowing you'll be okay regardless of whether things work out the way you want. Most people are prisoners of their attachments. They stay in jobs that drain them because they're afraid of financial uncertainty. They stay in relationships that diminish them because they're afraid of being alone. They compromise their values because they're afraid of disapproval. This fear of loss makes them controllable, and controllable people don't have power. Consider two people in identical situations. One person desperately needs their current job. They've built their entire life around it. Their identity is wrapped up in it. The other person values their job but knows they have skills and options. They could leave tomorrow and figure something else out. Which person do you think has more power in salary negotiations? Which person do you think gets more respect from management? Obviously the person who isn't desperate. Emotional independence gives you clarity. When you're not desperate to be right, you can actually learn from being wrong. When you're not desperate for approval, you can make unpopular decisions that are correct. When you're not desperate to win every argument, you can choose which battles actually matter. The paradox is this: the less you need something, the more attractive you become to it. Confident people aren't confident because everything always goes their way. They're confident because they know they'll survive and adapt, even when things don't go their way. Now, this doesn't mean being careless or indifferent. You should still pursue your goals with intensity and care about the people in your life. But you should never be so attached to any specific outcome that losing it would destroy you. Emotional independence also protects you from manipulation. When someone tries to control you by threatening to take away something, you're not afraid to lose. Their threat becomes meaningless. The most powerful person in any room is the one who would be fine even if they walked away from everything in that room. Practice this gradually. Start detaching from small things. Don't be so invested in winning minor arguments. Don't be so concerned with what casual acquaintances think of you. Don't be so rigid about plans working out exactly as you imagined. As you develop this capacity, you'll notice something interesting. People start treating you differently. They sense that you can't be easily manipulated, and that commands respect. Remember, emotional independence isn't about not caring. It's about caring without being enslaved by that caring. Fourth, strategic patience. Power doesn't announce itself with force. Real influence is often silent and gradual. While others are pushing and demanding and forcing, the strategically patient person is positioning and observing and waiting for exactly the right moment. Most people think power is loud. They think it requires constant action and visible dominance, but that's amateur thinking. Real power often looks like nothing is happening until suddenly everything shifts in your favor. Strategic patience means understanding that not every battle needs to be fought today. Not every opportunity needs to be seized immediately. Not every slight needs to be addressed in the moment. Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. Here's how this works in practice. In conversations, strategic patience means being comfortable with silence. Most people are so uncomfortable with silence that they fill it with words, often revealing more than they intended. When you can sit comfortably in silence, you control the rhythm of the conversation. In conflicts, strategic patience means not reacting immediately to provocation. When someone is trying to get an emotional reaction from you and you remain calm and measured, you've already won. They're out of control and you're not. In negotiations, strategic patience means being willing to let things unfold over time, rather than forcing immediate resolution. Often the person who's willing to wait gets better terms because the other side becomes anxious to close the deal. In professional advancement, strategic patience means consistently building your skills and reputation, rather than trying to jump ahead through politics or shortcuts. The person who builds a foundation of genuine competence will eventually surpass the person who's all image and no substance. Strategic patience requires a different relationship with time. Most people want instant gratification. They want to see immediate results from their efforts. But strategically patient people understand that the most valuable outcomes often take time to develop. They're planting seeds today that might not bear fruit for months or years. This requires trust in the process and confidence that consistent right action will eventually produce results. What happens when you master strategic patience? You stop making desperate moves that put you in weak positions. You stop reacting emotionally to situations that don't deserve your energy. You start seeing opportunities that others miss because they're too focused on immediate concerns. You develop a reputation as someone who's unshakable, and that reputation itself becomes a source of power. But here's the key. Strategic patience isn't passivity. You're still taking action. You're still making moves. You're just doing it thoughtfully and deliberately rather than reactively and desperately. The goal is controlled, purposeful action, not frantic busyness. Fifth, psychological mirroring. This is about developing such a deep understanding of human psychology that you can reflect people's own needs and desires back to them in ways that create connection and influence. When people feel truly understood by you, they naturally trust you more and value your perspective more highly. Most people are terrible at this because they're so focused on what they want to say that they barely hear what others are actually communicating. They're waiting for their turn to talk rather than genuinely listening for the meaning beneath the words. Psychological mirroring changes this completely. It means listening not just for information, but for emotion, motivation, and unspoken need. Every person you meet is silently asking 3 questions. Do you see me? Do you understand me? Do you value me? When you can communicate yes to all 3 of those questions through your attention and responses, you create powerful rapport. Here's how this works. When someone tells you about a problem they're facing, most people immediately jump to advice or judgment. But psychological mirroring means first reflecting back the emotional experience you're hearing. If someone says they're frustrated with their job, you might respond not with solutions but with understanding. It sounds like you're not feeling valued for what you contribute, or it seems like you're ready for a bigger challenge. Notice you're not agreeing or disagreeing. You're not offering solutions. You're simply demonstrating that you understand their experience. This creates trust because feeling understood is one of the deepest human needs. Once you've established that understanding, people become much more receptive to your influence. The advanced application of psychological mirroring is understanding someone's core values and motivations, then framing your communications in terms that naturally appeal to them. If someone values security above all else, you present ideas in terms of safety and stability. If someone values recognition, you present ideas in terms of achievement and visibility. If someone values autonomy, you present ideas in terms of freedom and choice. You're not changing your message. You're changing how you package your message to align with how they naturally think. This is incredibly powerful in every context. Leadership. When your team feels understood by you, they'll work harder and stay more loyal. Sales. When customers feel like you understand their real needs, not just what they're saying they need, they buy from you. Relationships. When people in your life feel genuinely seen and understood by you, the relationship deepens and strengthens. But here's the ethical boundary. Psychological mirroring should be used to genuinely understand and help people, not to manipulate them into things that harm them. When you use this skill in service of creating genuine win-win outcomes, it's one of the most valuable abilities you can develop. Sixth, moral pragmatism. The real world doesn't operate in black and white. Most situations involve competing values, incomplete information, and imperfect options. Moral pragmatism means making decisions based on actual outcomes rather than just on what looks good or feels comfortable. This is probably the most misunderstood concept, so let me be very clear. Moral pragmatism doesn't mean having no morals or doing whatever benefits you regardless of who gets hurt. It means recognizing that real-world decision-making is complex, and sometimes the action that appears most virtuous on the surface leads to worse outcomes than a more pragmatic approach. Here's an example. Imagine you're leading a team, and one person is consistently undermining the group's success through dishonesty and poor performance. The kind thing to do might be giving them endless chances and support. But what about everyone else on the team who's working honestly? What about the mission you're all trying to accomplish? Sometimes the pragmatic decision protecting the many by removing the one is more ethical than the apparently kind decision of letting the situation continue. Moral pragmatism means asking not just what makes me look like a good person, but what actually creates the best outcomes for everyone involved. It means being willing to make difficult decisions that others might not understand or approve of because you're focused on results, not appearances. This also means understanding that different contexts require different approaches. The same behavior that's appropriate in one situation might be completely wrong in another. Absolute moral rules sound good, but they often fail when applied to complex real-world scenarios. The key is developing clear personal values that guide your decisions, while also maintaining flexibility in how those values get applied in different situations. You need to know what lines you'll never cross while also giving yourself permission to be strategic and pragmatic within those boundaries. When you develop moral pragmatism, you become someone who can handle complex situations that would paralyze others. You can make tough calls. You can navigate gray areas. You can achieve results even when the path isn't simple or obvious. But you do all of this within a framework of integrity that you never violate. The goal isn't to become someone who does whatever it takes. The goal is to become someone who does whatever is necessary within ethical boundaries to achieve important outcomes. Seventh, controlled disclosure. In an age where people broadcast every thought and experience, the person who shares strategically stands out. Controlled disclosure means being intentional about what you reveal, to whom, and when. This creates both influence and protection. Think about the psychology of curiosity. When humans encounter something incomplete, their minds automatically try to fill in the gaps. This is why cliffhangers work in entertainment and why mystery is attractive in people. When you share selectively, you create curiosity gaps that make others more interested in you and more attentive when you do share. The most compelling people you know probably don't tell you everything. They share enough to maintain connection, but they leave you wanting to know more. This isn't accidental. It's strategic. In professional contexts, controlled disclosure means not revealing all your capabilities at once. It means keeping some knowledge in reserve so you can provide value when it's most strategically useful. It means not explaining every aspect of your methodology so others can't easily replicate what you do. In social situations, controlled disclosure means not sharing your entire history with everyone you meet. It means revealing personal information gradually as relationships develop and trust is earned. This isn't being secretive. It's being appropriately selective about intimacy levels. In negotiations, controlled disclosure means not revealing all your constraints and priorities up front. It means maintaining some information advantage so you can negotiate from strength. The fundamental principle is this: information once revealed cannot be unrevealed. Once someone knows something about you, they can't unknow it. So it's better to share too little than too much, because you can always share more later, but you can never take back what you've already shared. Controlled disclosure also involves understanding timing. The same piece of information can have completely different impacts depending on when it's revealed. Sharing an achievement too early might seem like bragging. Sharing the same achievement later when it's relevant to solving a problem makes you seem humble and helpful. The goal isn't to be mysterious for mystery's sake. The goal is to maintain control over your narrative and your relationships. When you share strategically, you can guide how people perceive you and ensure that you're revealing the aspects of yourself that are most relevant to your current objectives. But balance is important. You want to share enough to build genuine human connections, but not so much that you lose strategic advantage or make yourself vulnerable to people who haven't earned that level of access to your inner world. Eighth, ruthless focus on results. This is what separates amateurs from professionals. Amateurs focus on effort, intentions, and appearing busy. Professionals focus exclusively on outcomes. They measure themselves not by how hard they tried, but by what they actually accomplished. Most people get distracted by things that don't matter. They want to be right more than they want to be effective. They want to look good more than they want to get results. They want validation for their process more than they want achievement of their goals. Ruthless focus on results cuts through all of that. It means constantly asking, what am I actually trying to accomplish here? And is what I'm doing right now moving me toward that outcome? This changes everything. In disagreements, instead of trying to win the argument, you ask what outcome would actually benefit me, and is winning this argument the best path to that outcome? Often it's not. Sometimes letting someone else be right while you quietly get what you want is the smarter play. In work situations, ruthless focus on results means choosing projects and activities based on impact, not on visibility or comfort. It means being willing to do unglamorous work if that's what produces results, and avoiding prestigious work if it doesn't actually move important metrics. In personal development, it means measuring progress by actual capability increases and achievements, not by effort or time invested. It means being brutally honest about what's working and what isn't, even when that honesty is uncomfortable. This leads to what I call strategic selectivity. Results-focused people often do less than others because they're extremely selective about where they invest energy. They focus on the vital few activities that produce the majority of results, rather than trying to do everything. They're not trying to be the busiest person. They're trying to be the most effective person. This also means being willing to change approaches when something isn't working. Most people get attached to their methods even when those methods aren't producing results. Results-focused people are attached to outcomes, not methods. If approach A isn't working, they immediately shift to approach B. They have no ego about their process, only about their results. What happens when you develop ruthless focus on results? You stop wasting time on activities that feel productive but don't actually matter. You stop getting distracted by drama and politics that don't affect outcomes. You start achieving more with less effort because you're investing that effort precisely where it matters most. You develop a reputation as someone who delivers, and that reputation opens doors that remain closed to people who are all talk and no results. The ultimate goal is becoming someone who consistently achieves what they set out to achieve. Not someone who tries hard. Not someone who has good intentions. Someone who produces actual results in the real world. Now you understand the 8 frameworks that separate strategic thinkers from reactive ones. But knowledge without application is just entertainment. So here's what I want you to do. Choose one framework that resonated most strongly with you. Just one. For the next 7 days, practice applying that framework in your daily life. Don't try to implement everything at once. Focus on one skill and notice how it changes your interactions and outcomes. Notice how people respond to you differently. Notice how you feel when you're operating from strategy rather than reaction. Notice what becomes possible when you're thinking several moves ahead instead of just responding to whatever is in front of you. But remember what we established at the beginning. This knowledge comes with responsibility. Use these frameworks to protect yourself and advance legitimate goals, not to harm people who don't deserve it. Use them to create better outcomes for everyone involved, not just for yourself. The world needs more people who understand how power and influence actually work, not so they can exploit others, but so they can't be exploited themselves. People who can see through manipulation and protect themselves and others from it. People who can navigate complex social and professional situations and find solutions that serve everyone's interests. That's the real purpose of strategic intelligence. Not to become a manipulator, but to become someone who cannot be manipulated. Not to gain power over others, but to gain power over your own life and circumstances. The most dangerous person in any room might be the one with nothing to lose. But the most valuable person in any room is the one who understands human psychology deeply and uses that understanding to make everyone's situation better. So which person will you choose to be? If this content shifted how you think about intelligence and influence, hit that like button right now. If you want more insights about psychology, strategy, and human behavior, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss content that could change your approach to life. Most importantly, drop a comment and tell me which of these 8 frameworks you see operating in the successful people around you and which one you're going to practice first. I read every comment, and your insights make this community stronger. Until next time, remember that real intelligence isn't just about being smart. It's about being wise enough to use your intelligence in service of something meaningful. Stay strategic, stay ethical, and stay powerful.